So, what if everything we think we know about black holes is just one side of the story? Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating and pretty unconventional theory about the cosmos. And this one doesn't come from a physics lab, but from a place of spiritual enlightenment.
On one side, you've got the legend himself, Stephen Hawking, who used science, physics, and hard math to try and figure out the universe's biggest secrets. And on the other side, we have an author named Zhu Feng, who says he reached some of the same conclusions through a totally different path, Zen Enlightenment, or Chan Wu. We're talking two completely different journeys that somehow end up at the same, very surprising destination.
And that right there is the author's whole premise. He's basically arguing that it doesn't matter if you're using a superpowered telescope or deep meditation, the fundamental truths of the universe are out there for the discovering. The tools might be different, but the destination, he says, it's the same.
That really is the big question, isn't it? I mean, it kind of challenges our whole idea of what knowledge even is. And to understand the author's answer, we really need to step into his world and explore his unique view of the cosmos piece by piece.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start where science and spirituality supposedly meet. Then we'll get into the author's model of the universe. After that, we'll dive deep into his 8 claims about black holes, look at how he says he knows all this, and then we'll wrap up with an invitation for you to explore these ideas on your own.
All right, let's jump right in with this pretty unlikely convergence. Where exactly did these two paths, Hawking's hardcore science and Shui Thing's spirituality, actually cross?
Okay, so here's the key point that ties it all together. The author says that through his spiritual practice, he figured out that the total energy of the universe, all the positive and all the negative added up, equals 0. It was only later, when he was reading Hawking's A Brief History of Time, that he had this aha moment. He realized the physicist had reached the exact same conclusion using math, and that discovery is really the foundation for his entire argument. Now, before we can get to his theories about black holes, we first have to understand the universe as he sees it. And let me tell you, it's a very different picture from the standard model. So let's take a look at his cosmic blueprint.
So the author calls the universe a hundan, which means a single indivisible whole. It's not just a collection of separate things, it's a living holographic being. He says it's made of God's spirit, an antimatter structure, and a divine order. In this model, nothing is random. It's like a human body. We don't have any extra useless organs. And he says the universe is the same, no extra planets or stars. Everything is precisely arranged and has a purpose.
Okay, with that cosmic blueprint in our minds, now we can tackle the main event, the author's 8 specific points about the mysteries of black holes. And trust me, this is where things get really interesting.
First, we've got to understand his fundamental rule about energy. It's a simple idea, but it's super powerful. The more energy something has, the more formless it is, the less energy, the more solid its shape. Think about it. A rock has low energy, and it's got a very clear form. A black hole, in his view, is an incredibly high-energy thing, and that's why it appears formless to us.
So, what are they? Well, according to the author, black holes aren't just cosmic vacuum cleaners. Nope, they are conscious beings. He calls them God's police, and says they were created specifically to maintain order and, direct traffic in the vastness of space.
So how does this cosmic policing actually work? Well, the author describes it as a balancing act. He says black holes eat the gravitational pull that might otherwise make planets and stars crash into each other. But then, to balance things out, they expel a repulsive force that keeps everything at a safe distance. This gets back to his core belief. Nothing in the universe only takes in. There always has to be an output to keep things in balance. The author's idea of a black hole structure is also a total 180 from what we normally think. He claims the energy isn't in the core, it's concentrated on the edge. So from the outside, all you see is darkness, but on the inside, he says it's a bright and splendid world. He uses a couple of brilliant analogies for this. First, it's like a one-way mirror on a CEO's office. You can't see in, but they can see out. And second, it's like the protective circle the Monkey King Sun Wukong draws in Journey to the West. It's an energy barrier that evil can't cross.
And all of that leads to the author's simple but pretty radical conclusion. If there's a bright world inside a dark shell, then black holes aren't actually black at all.
Annie has a few more points. These cosmic police, they don't make mistakes, they don't fall asleep on the job, because they're being controlled by a higher divine consciousness. He also makes one final, really big claim, that the universe's largest black hole has a very special purpose. It's a prison,
for gods and demons who have broken celestial laws.
Okay, at this point, you are probably asking the exact same thing I was. How could anyone possibly know all of this? I mean, what's the source for these extraordinary claims?
Right? This is the critical question. When you make claims that fly in the face of centuries of scientific observation, you have to give some basis for your knowledge. So let's take a look at what the author offers.
Well, the author's answer isn't data, it's not equations. His answer is Lifechanyuan. This term basically translates to a kind of spiritual intuition, or a sensory perception that goes way beyond our normal five senses. He claims this is how he's able to perceive these cosmic truths directly.
Now, as for any kind of external validation, the author shares this one anecdote. He says, out of the blue, he got a letter from an American psychic who'd been practicing for over 30 years. She wrote that his name just flew off the sheet at her, and she described this vision of him holding a tiny piece of paper of incredible value. The author came to believe that this paper must be his writings, a sign of validation from someone else with similar sensory abilities.
So, after exploring the claims and the basis for them, we get to the author's final message. And it's not a demand for you to believe him, it's more of an invitation to challenge convention.
So what's the key takeaway here? Well, we've been shown an alternative worldview where science and spirituality can actually land on the same truth. We've seen a vision of the universe as a conscious, living system. But maybe the most important thing is that this is a call to explore truth through different lenses. And what's really fascinating is that the author himself warns his readers not to just believe him blindly. He encourages everyone to keep going on their own journey of discovery.
Which leaves us all with one final and pretty provocative thought. When we go beyond the world of things we can test and measure, how do we navigate what we find? Whether you see this as profound spiritual insight or just powerful creative imagination, it definitely challenges us to think about the universe and our place in it in a totally new light.